Are you as busy as you think you are? Short answer is probably not. So we're going to talk a little bit about time management, something we get into. This is Chris's topic, though, or at least you're the one that suggested the topic. So rather than me introduce it, Chris, why don't you tell us what you're thinking?
Well, I think there's two sides of that apple. Um, there's some people that may think they're super busy and they're not, they're really not that busy. They're just not good at time management, or they're spending their time, they're spending more time doing things that they don't need to be doing.
Yeah.
On the flip side, there are people out there, there's a lot of people out there in church that are putting in way more than 40 hours a week and they're not getting overtime and they don't even realize it. And the people around them might realize it, but they don't realize it because they're just like, things got to get done. So if I have to stay till 3 a.m, I'm going to do that. And so two ends of the spectrum. And the question is, where are you on that spectrum? Are you in, because both the extremes are bad. We'd like to see people right in the middle. But once again, awareness is key. And I think some people aren't even aware of that at all. They're not thinking, they're just going. So what I was saying is there's the people that are spending, they think they're busy, but they're really just spending their time doing things that important, right? They think they're busy. Or even worse, there might be people that are just trying to do as little work as possible and still get a paycheck.
Yeah.
I would like to think there's not people like that in church, but there might be. Other side is people that are going way over 40 hours a week, 50, 60 hours a week, staying until 3 a.m. I used to do those kind of things because I was like, I can't leave unless something's finished. I can't just be like, oh, because it all falls on me, right?
Yeah.
So you just stay till the wee hours of the night and you might bring some people with you. And next thing, like you've put in way more than 40 hours a week and there's no overtime built in for your job. But what we'd like to see is like somebody in the middle somewhere, because both sides are just not good. They're extreme.
Yeah.
And both extremes don't end well. We have seen that.
I'd love to, let's maybe riff a little bit. There's a pastoral nature, and I'm going to paint it in an extreme light, but if you're a very pastoral, caring, pastoral doesn't necessarily, you can be a pastor and not be particularly oversensitive and caring and stuff like that. But I wonder, what do we do, and more of a rhetorical question, because we've talked with guys like this, but a lot of times somebody, a pastor, worship pastor will come, or creative pastor or something, they'll come up and say, man, I'm just like, I'm so overworked. I'm so tired. And then we'll look at their week, and their week consists of a lot of coffee meetings with the people on their team, which in and of itself, like I'll say right now, like for whatever clips we end up putting up on Instagram and stuff to talk about this, it's important to be able to invest in your team. But I think we've seen the side of it where investing in team is a scattershot thing, and a 2.5 hour coffee with a team member can be deeply valuable. But we've also seen where people have ended up having like a standing 3-hour coffee meeting every week with the same team member, which can be good if you're genuinely doing deep discipleship work, but also it can also just be an excuse. And I don't say it as an excuse because even the pastors we talk to they wouldn't say, I'm just like making an excuse to do work. They genuinely feel like they're doing discipleship. So I'd love to kind of just riff a little bit on what we do with people that are very relational. They're doing the work. I think in most of the stuff we talk about, we always talk about how the people are more important than the work of it. So I want to be careful where I'm not saying, oh, you need to actually just be doing work and not being worried about the people, because like it is absolutely important, but you can, like you were saying, you can skew way far on that side. Maybe rather than talking about why you shouldn't do it, maybe let's riff a bit on like practical ways to actually do that pastoral work. I know both of us in our contexts had really strong teams. I guess you'd have to get our teams up to have them like tell us whether our teams were actually as strong as we thought they were. But there was definitely a lot of a relational component in both of our worship ministries for a long time. But there was also a lot of work that got done. So maybe I'd love to hear yours. I know I would always point to your worship ministry over the 15 years we've been doing this on, man, the worship ministry at Chris's church, like that's a group of people who get a lot of really good work done, but also who genuinely care for each other. And I'd love to kind of hear, how the heck do you foster both good work and good care? Because we can often fall too far into As long as I'm just meeting with my team all the time and I'm letting them know I love them, then that's enough. But then the work of the ministry can end up falling to the wayside.
Yeah, I think the number one thing, and I recommend this for every single person in ministry, whether or not somebody's asking to do this or not, I think you need a time log. You need to keep a log of what you're doing, literally by the minute throughout the week. Because number one, you don't know until you write that down, right? You may not know until you do a time log, and then by the end of the week, you're like, oh, I had coffee for 15 hours this week, and I'm getting paid for 40. That only left me 25 hours left for doing other things. Me personally, like I remember a time when pedalboards were something you build, not something you buy.
Yeah.
And man, I spend so much time rewiring pedalboards and coming up with presets and trying to dial in my tone. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing ministry, and turns out I was spending 10 hours a week doing that. If you are supposedly you're full time, which is 40 hours a week, and there's these things that you enjoy doing, you may find that things that you enjoy, you're putting a lot of time into, and the things that you don't enjoy, you're saying you don't have time for it. But really, you're just kind of filling your time with something enjoyable. It's really easy to do. And it's fine if you're doing enjoyable things, but it's going to be hard to justify that when you have to turn in a log to your leadership and you say that 30 of the 40 hours of a week you spent doing lunches, coffees, and dinners with people, the softball ministry, or things like that. I just write it down, everything. And a lot of people wait too late. They wait till the question comes up. You've been there for 5 years and all of a sudden it's time for everybody's getting raises and somebody says, why do you need a raise?
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I spend so much time here. And they're like, prove it. And especially now after COVID, how many people don't have offices anymore or office hours because COVID kind of wiped that out and you just got used to working from home. And it's hard to quantify that if you're not keeping a log. So yeah. I would say do it. Before anybody asks you, just do it for yourself so you know and you can see. Because you might be like, wow, I'm crushing it. I'm maximizing these 40 hours and then that's it. But you might also be like, wow, I'm actually working 70 hours a week. Or you might find out, whoops, I'm only working actually 15 hours and the rest of it is just like things I like to do. You know, jamming with the worship team for 3 hours after rehearsal, or I don't know, fish tacos with your associate pastor every Tuesday. I used to do that. It was one of the favorite things I did every week, but it wasn't really ministry. It was just us going to fish tacos Tuesday, you know.
Which again, can be great. Again, the danger is we're not trying to sit here and say don't have relational time with your team, but at least like you were saying, having that understanding of, yeah, I'm doing fish tacos once a week. I think we did tacos. So tacos is Taco Tuesday was in where I was at. I took my whole team there. Sometimes I would have the church pay for it because they were $1 a taco, and other times we weren't. But just in general, my whole creative team went there for tacos. I could sit here and try to make an excuse-ish. Again, I say excuse, but I could talk about how it's a very spiritual moment or something, and it wasn't. It was entirely just hanging out with each other, which was great. But the danger then can be if that's everything I do and I count that and I'm coming in and I'm coming into work late and I'm leaving early on that day and I took a 2-hour lunch to take with the team out to tacos. I say take the team out. I go out to lunch with my team for tacos. So then I'm maybe got a meeting on a Tuesdays. Those were a lot of meetings for us. I had a meeting in the morning. I go do that lunch. I come home. I go home at 3. So I've had an hour in my office for that day and I go home and I'm like, man, big day. And was it? Genuinely. You got to be able to audit yourself. And that's part of it's funny, the big fight that's going on Instagram for those of you that are like, I'm not paying attention to it, but we make reels and carousels and stuff out of these talks. And we talked about hymns and people are just fighting and arguing about all of it. I say all that to say, because you can take a clip of this and then make it sound like we're saying, don't be relational. We're not, but we're saying be mindful of what you're doing and the work that you're doing. Yeah. I kind of went on a rambling trail there, but yeah, I'd love to, maybe let's go to the other side too. the team member that feels because it's ministry that they should blow themselves out, like they should be there, they feel guilty. I know I've had the privilege of walking through with some people that would have various days where maybe they're starting something early at the church, 6 a.m, they're there, they're doing stuff, and the church is going all day, and then the church has a prayer meeting at night or something like that, and so they're there consistently from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at night, so it's like a baked-in 14-hour day. And sometimes you'll talk to these people, and some people are definitely bitter for it and burnt out, and they see it and they realize it, and they need to go have a candid conversation with their leader. Others are like, no, this is it. I signed up to serve the Lord, and serving the Lord means I'm at church for 14 hours, and that's what I do. And again, some people genuinely do love it. A lot of those people aren't married or have kids yet, but there is a season for that. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that side of it.
Yeah, I was taken aback the last couple of times I went back to Virginia, because whenever we go back to Virginia, it's you automatically and the last couple of times we went back, I think we've done 5 funerals this year, and it was all church members. And because I was there, I was like, of course I'm going to go to this funeral. This person was a big part of my life. And then weddings, and then birthday parties, and then a lot of kids were born. And I was actually there trying to do some work and get our house like wrapped up because we were trying to sell our home. And I just was like, I just taken back by the amount of time that you get pulled away from what you're trying to do, because you start intermingling side and the family side of church, right? And so it's the funeral ministry. Is that time? Am I on the clock? Or obviously I wasn't, because I'm not on staff there anymore. But when I was on staff, it was like every week there was weddings, funerals, birthdays, Bible studies, events, youth concerts, and lock-ins. And so that's what I'm talking about with the log. Whether or not it is substantial, whether or not you may think it's ministry, or you may know it's ministry, but if you write it down, you will never be able to have any kind of, I don't want to say argument, but discussion with a leader or somebody that is in charge of your paycheck and how much you get paid, unless you can present them, this is how much time I've spent doing this. Because then you might come to the point of, they're like, those are birthday parties. I'm not going to pay you for a birthday party. And you're like, I didn't really want to go to that birthday party, but I had to go because I was the worship pastor. There's things like that. But you just may be surprised at how much time you're putting in. I think a lot of people that, especially at smaller churches where you're like the person that has to do everything, you're the worship leader, you're the youth leader, you're the digital person, the social media person, you may be putting in 60, 70 hours a week and you don't even know it. And so do that log and find out for yourself, but then also have it so that you can present it when that time comes, because almost all of us eventually, inevitably get into that conversation with somebody, because if you're getting paid, somebody's going to say, well, how much to sow? I've had new people where they just were brand new to the church, and then all of a sudden they're in the leadership, and they're like, that person gets paid that much? Like, why? They have no clue. But if you can justify it and you can show them, then and you have something on paper, then it's worth it.
Yep, that's good. I'm trying to think what else goes along with this. That's almost it. So just there's a self-awareness, I think, that's important for a lot of us to just be mindful to get into, is to just like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Don't think so highly of yourself, I think, is probably the general vibe that we tend to run into. But even as I say that, it's like I can still picture somebody who will think, well, then I better work 60 hours a week to prove my worth, because I don't want to think too highly of myself. So again, like, this is a lot of be better to get in a room with us to be able to talk with you and talk through this more in a tangible way of where you're at. But I think, like you said, like an audit, or actually just being aware of what you're doing throughout the week, maybe just for yourself to just see like how much of my time is actually working. Am I actually getting in at a decent time in the day? Am I going home early? Am I staying too late? Am I at all the things? One of the things that I've often seen is when you get into a church that's really running, and this, like production people especially, sometimes the production person is responsible for turning on that soundboard no matter what the church does. And so you may potentially be getting burned out horrendously because the church is just happy to do lots of things and they're not thinking about the person that actually is at the board. So every time they offer the room, then you're there. There's a tangible aspect of you might need to be doing some discipleship. You might also be needing to have a conversation with your pastor. There's layers. I think there were a couple times where our production guy would get overloaded. And then we went and made a pitch for, we need to come up with some contracted positions and we need a pool of 5 or 6 young adults essentially that would be happy to come work for $20 an hour or something to come run things on the weekends, or not the weekends, but throughout the weeknights and things like that. And we got the system all set up and it took some cajoling and it took some pushing. But again, that all stacked upon itself because our production guy was doing good work and I had a spreadsheet of what he was doing and how much he was doing. If it was a conversation where somebody on the team is just like, everybody's questioning how much you're actually working and you come up and be like, hey, we need to hire some more people so I don't have to work as much. Sometimes your leader might be like, no, I don't think you work. And that's again, like there's conversations. And sometimes the leader's right. Sometimes like you aren't actually working or you're working on the wrong things. Again, falling back into, you did 20 hours of coffee every week for the past 2 months. Let's back that off. So again, there's a lot of nuance. I just ran through a whole bunch of different situations in a few seconds, but there's a lot of nuance in there that ultimately comes down. Yeah, go ahead.
Especially like on the creative team, man, you would be surprised how many people they think it takes 2 seconds to make some kind of 2-minute video. Once you start making a log, if you could get your team to start making logs, especially if you have, say you have a part-time person working for you, like you yourself, if you're over that person, you need to be aware of how much time they're putting in because you don't want to be asking them to do 40 hours when they're only get paid 20 hours a week. And like things like social media or videos or tracks, guys, like that the final product is only a 30-second thing or a 2-minute thing. But a lot of people don't realize that in order to edit a 2-minute video, it takes 5 hours, right? And so editing and sitting in front of a computer for 5 hours, like that needs to be logged because nobody sees it except for you. And sometimes you feel like just because nobody saw it, like it's like the tree that fell in the forest. Like, if nobody saw me do this, then I didn't really do it. Helping your team make logs and being aware of those logs and being aware of how much time you're asking your team members to put in and comparing that to how much are they getting paid and what was their original contract. Just think it will really help have a healthy team. And if you've done our burnout quiz, I'd say this is step 2. Once you do the burnout quiz, most people come to the conclusion that they're heading towards burnout. They might not be burnout at the moment, but
I haven't shared the stats yet on that burnout thing. Of the people that have done it, which I think quite a few have done it, but I think 90% of the people that have done it are fully burned out according to the test. So much so that I need to go double check the scoring. Is this messed up? But I do think, like, I looked at some of it and I was like, oh no. Like by the time I'm looking at it, which again is something we highlighted, by the time you're checking if you're burnt out, you're probably burnt out. So it's like our statement has become reality in the data that we're seeing.
There's so many things. When you make a log, you can also look at it and you can be like, man, in our conferences, we used to talk about having a production manager or hiring a production manager or some kind of worship assistant. And you could look and be like, 5 of these things that's taking up 15 hours a week could be done by somebody else. And I could either have somebody that is not necessarily a musician or doesn't have the skills that I have, but it's busy work. I could have somebody else do that. Or you could present it to your pastor or your leadership and be like, I really think we need to hire a 10-hour a week person because I am working 60 hours a week. And if I could have somebody take these things off my plate, then I could focus on the things that I need to be doing. But none of that you can't argue any of it if you don't have a log and you don't have any way to show for it. And so I just think there's so many advantages to having that and to start logging that stuff and writing it down. And the only disadvantage is it takes a little bit of time to do it, but it's just, I think it's way worth it. The pros far exceed the cons for doing that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. We'll probably need to make it. I think we've given people sheets before. I don't know why I got on my microphone like that for no reason. But we need to probably just make that available. Or if we haven't already, I think we have it somewhere, like a time audit sheet. It's just a blank spreadsheet. The short answer, like it's a blank spreadsheet, but yeah, we'll find it somewhere and put it in there.